Welcome, my friends, to Microlearning with your buddy Phil for the PMP exam. It's a pleasure to have you here today. I hope you've been enjoying these episodes. If you have, please go ahead, smash that like button. It encourages me and the algorithm. Let's talk about resource management today. Resource management is about the management of human resources, materials, equipment, supplies, facilities. It's all about planning. But I've got a few questions for you. Let's start off with direction, because I want to make sure that you are ready for your PMP exam in this area. And one of the ways I understand if you're ready is by asking you questions. So let me ask you a question. What is the first process you carry out in resource management? Now, if you're drawing a blank, it means you haven't really mastered this area. The answer is plan resource management. You plan how to manage resources. That's step one. Another question, what is step two? If you're drawing a blank, the answer is you estimate activity resources. EAR, EAR. Just remember that. I'm giving you that free of charge. Number three, what is the third process in resource management? It's acquire resources. So after you've estimated how many resources you need for the activities, you acquire the resources: human, equipment, material, supplies, facilities. Tell me, what is the fourth thing you do in resource management? This helps me know if you are truly ready. Do you know? Okay, the fourth process is called develop team. This is where you're building the team, you're training the team, you're setting them for offsites, you're developing them so that they overcome those barriers. The 5 stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. You're ensuring that the team is able to navigate that with you as a servant leader. What is number 5? The fifth thing you do in resource management. Do you know? Okay, number 5 for you as a project manager, it's called manage team. Now, manage team could sound a bit draconian, but let's make it clear. Manage can be replaced with the word lead. It's really more of a leadership thing than anything else. While you're maintaining order and structure and direction, you're also leading the team. So in manage team, this is where you take a look at any tests or records of exams that might have happened in developed team when you sent them for training. The evidence of the training, the proof of the training is in the higher level of performance. So you're taking a look at the records, the reports. How well are they doing today? And if there's no improvement, it means we need to go back to the drawing board and get these people some additional training or some additional hands-on, some help to get them to that state we need them to be at. So that's called manage team. I've gone over 5. Number 6, what is the 6th step in resource management? Do you know? It's called control resources. Control resources means you are controlling how the physical resources are being used on the project. You are ensuring that the resources promised were indeed present on site or made available at the right time in the right place. You're ensuring that everything you planned for the physical resources is going according to plan, and if not, you're going to pivot, modify something to ensure your resources are on point and on track. But this is for the physical resources only. Why is that? We don't use the word control for people. So there are 6 things in resource management. Number 1, plan resource management. Number 2, estimate activity resources. Number 3, acquire resources. Number 4, develop team. Number 5, manage team. And number 6, control resources. When you take a look at resource management, it's important that you don't put it in a vacuum. It doesn't exist in isolation. Before you get to the topic of resources, you should be thinking about the scope. Based on the scope involved, you know which resources you expect. You know how many coders, testers, engineers, medical personnel, food service engineers, and so on. You know who to put on the project based on the scope. In addition to the scope, you got to think about the schedule, because there are trade-offs. Well, I could get Phil for $800 an hour, but I could get someone for $200 an hour. The only problem is the $200 an hour resource is not as good as Phil and makes a lot of mistakes. Phil is a professional. He can come in and get it done in a shorter time frame. The $200 resource is going to take 4 times as much. So what's the point? You might as well get quality and speed by using Phil. Maybe a little bit expensive, but quality and speed and accuracy. Now, that is just one view. You also need to take a look at cost. Schedule, cost, scope, resources, quality. Did you see how many things we took on right there? 5 things. The trifecta along with resources and quality. But that's not all. You know that when you're looking at resources, sometimes organizations who are your customers may want you as a project manager. So we got to bring in the topic of stakeholders as well. We also got to bring in the topic of risk. Sometimes using that $200 resource could result in quality risks, things that you don't want to deal with. So when we talk about resources, this is an extremely important topic for your PMP, because at the heart of all the questions, you're going to have the craziness of team members in conflict. You're also going to have discussions of team members, not just in conflict within the team, but in conflict with buyers. That's not good. For that reason, when you look at the resource knowledge area, it is so far-reaching, because when we talk about the people domain being 42% of the PMP exam, a lot of the drama happens in this knowledge area, which is why I'm taking a longer time than usual to talk about it. When you talk about resources, it's important you delineate human from equipment. And when you zero in on human, there are a plethora of topics you need to understand. Like I said, the 5 stages of team development, or Tuckman's ladder: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. You also need to understand Maslow's pyramid. What is at the top of the pyramid? Self-actualization. What is at the bottom? Physiological. Physiological, then safety, then love or belonging, then esteem, then self-actualization. The mnemonic: people sing lullabies every Sunday. Use that mnemonic to understand the direction of Maslow's pyramid. You also need to understand the general thought of Theory X and Y. A Theory X manager is one that is an impediment to the employee's morale, keeping them down, keeping them micromanaged. But a Theory Y manager is someone who believes the best in you, open arms, believes that you can work without supervision, is not trying to condition and program you with gifts that are similar to bribe that a Theory X would do. You see, a Theory X would give you gifts and would give you bonuses because they think you cannot work without that. You are so inept at work that you need a little bit of salt to salt the horse. Really horrible way of thinking for Theory X, but Theory Y knows that even when they reward you, you don't need the reward to do great in the work. It's just a thank you. So 2 different mindsets, Theory X or Theory Y. For this, you also need to understand Robert Greenleaf's 10 Tenets of Servant Leadership. If you haven't read the 10 Tenets of Servant Leadership by Robert Greenleaf, rest his soul, let me go over these with you very quickly. Number 1, you got to be a great listener. A servant leader listens. A servant leader is one who understands that to be understood, you got to understand first. A good servant leader is one who is not all about me, listen to me, hear me out, here's the vision, no. A great servant leader listens to what their team has to say. Number 2, great servant leaders show empathy. Number 3, great servant leaders understand the importance of healing. It's important for a team to heal. If they've had a tough time within the team, servant leader understands that. Servant leaders understand, number 4, self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to look at yourself, think about your emotions and behavior, and consider how they affect those around you. You may call that EI. Number 5, servant leaders understand persuasion. They guide and persuade, not with carrot and sticks like the Theory X manager. Conceptualization is important. Great servant leaders think beyond the tiny things. They understand the big picture. They're able not only to cast vision, but they can help recast the vision when needed. Great servant leaders, number 7, they have foresight. They understand the importance of learning from the past. They don't look down on intuition. They understand that the past lessons learned can be used to make better decisions for the future. Number 8, they're great stewards. Number 9, they're committed to growth of others. Number 10, they are great and enthusiastic at building community, in bridging the gap between people, bridging the gap from company X to company Y or department A to department B. So these are some of the concepts that you need to know for your exam. I could go on and on. I could talk about conflict management. You got to understand there are 5 approaches to conflict talked about. You got to understand the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument. Either you're extremely passionate about your interests and you might have a forcing approach, or you might be extremely passionate about the other person's interests and therefore you have a smooth or accommodate approach. But somewhere in the middle there's compromise. And in addition to compromise, we have the extremes where you are not interested in their viewpoint, neither yours, in getting resolution, so you avoid or withdraw. But we have on the other end of the spectrum, hyper interested in the other person and you getting to resolve. And that's where we have collaborate or problem solve. So you can see, my friends, there's so many things to talk about in the resource management knowledge area, but I would advise you to join my course. Go to hpmexam.com. You can join my next live course via Zoom, or you could go on down to tinyurl.com/elite PMP or tinyurl.com/elite CAPM. Those are on Udemy. If you're not able to join me in a live program, definitely hit those. And if you're looking for a solid mock exam to really assure you that you're ready for the test, go on down to mock.hpmexam.com and you'll be able to take a 200 plus question test. Actually, it's going to whittle them down to 180 questions, just like the real exam. Thank you for joining me, my friends, and all the very best. Speak to you again soon.